Hello, thank you for joining us on the news. I'm Ruth Aguwele. My sign language interpreter is Taiwo Ozoma. Let's start with the headlines. Former President Obasanjo calls for unity in Africa as the Intra-African Trade Fair on the way in Algeria. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu unveils new national competition, Green Nigeria Challenge. Plus, European powers condemn Israeli strikes on Qatar. Made in Nigerian products are taking the spotlight again, expanding into new markets and attracting fresh demands across Africa. Comfort Amodo reports that the 2025 Intra-African Trade Fair, where Nigerian businesses are pitching their strength and forcing connections with key players on the continent.
Nigeria is making a bolder statement on the global stage with its dynamic participation at the IATF 2025, showcasing a diverse range of products, innovations and investment opportunities, positioning itself as a key driver of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA.
They've taken a lot of contracts from networking, a lot of contracts, a lot of MOUs are being signed. We at NEPC, we will now follow through to ensure that we seal it. And there's a lot of communication and networking between them and other countries.
And from manufacturing and agriculture to fintech and creative industry, Nigeria's presence reflects its ambition to deepen intra-African trade and strengthen economic ties across the continent.
The egusi particularly, then you speak to them about it, they understand it. They in fact want to eat it as a snack. I've had a number of them ask me if they can just chew it.
We've got a lot of engagement with different Africans, different off-takers. Nigeria is, of course, a vibrant market.
Our standards are global. We have passed all the standards, both African standards, Nigerian standards, international standards. We are second to none. As far as I'm concerned, we don't have real competition in Africa.
For the very first time, the IATF will be held in West Africa, and Nigeria actually won the bid to host the next IATF in 2027. From Algiers, Algeria, I'm Comfort Amodu, NTA News.
Still at the Intra-African Trade Fair in Algeria, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, in a message, says Africa must unite to achieve the Africa we want. He told global and trade leaders that rhetoric is no longer enough. Only concrete action and political will can deliver integration and real development across the continent.
We need to go back and make sure that we manage diversity very well, so that we have inclusivity in our management of diversity.
Former Afreximbank President Benedict Oramah struck a similar tone, stressing that Africa cannot grow trade without tearing down the barriers that still holds businesses back.
Infrastructure carries today about $1.4 trillion of trade. The problem is, or the question is, why is the African trade share of that just 200 to 300 billion? Why is it not 700 billion? So the Inter-African Trade Fair provides that opportunity to begin to break down the information barrier, which was caused by the fragmentation arising from colonialism.
Comfort Amodu reports that harmonizing policies and cutting red tape are some of the recommendations coming out of the trade fair. pushing that the continent is ready not just to trade, but to thrive. And turning our attention back home, Vice President Kashim Shettima has called for collective action to actualize the administration's skills acquisition drive, saying the era of working in isolation is over. He gave the charge during the 7th meeting of the National Council on Skills at the Presidential Villa. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
The skills revolution is one of the promises of the Tinubu administration to Nigerians. Vice President Kashim Shettima at this meeting charged relevant stakeholders to unite in ensuring that every Nigerian acquires the skills needed, commending Kaduna State government for setting up and chairing the first Council on Skills, describing it as exemplary, urging other subnationals to follow suit.
The era of operating in silos is over. We must move towards a new streamlined workflow that embeds collaboration directly into the process of curriculum development and funding. This new process isn't just for our own convenience. It is for the ambitious artisan in Kaura Namoda seeking certification, for the mid-career worker in Ebute Meta needing to reskill, and for the technical colleges across this nation that need funding to become true centers of excellence.
The way to go is skills in Nigeria. That's the only way we can be able to address the issue of unemployment, empower our youths so that they can be gainfully employed. We have a lot of deficit in the area of skills in Nigeria, and that's the reason why the investment in the area of skills by the federal government is unprecedented. There's no government in the history of Nigeria that invested in the area of skills, that is very government, and I feel it's highly commendable.
Recently, you heard us release a new curriculum, which is heavily focused on skills. We've streamlined it with a clear emphasis on 6 skills that will be done at junior secondary schools and secondary schools. And these are skills that have been mapped to the needs of the country.
At the end of the day, Nigerians have skills. Nigerians have something to do. Nigerians have work ab initio before even coming out. So as you're growing up, you're growing with skill, and then the labor ministry will not have barrages of unemployed people.
The Kaduna Vocational and Skills Development Institute recently admitted over 30,000 students, part of stronger commitment to ensuring that the council achieves its established goals, particularly in job creation. From the State House, Abdurrahman Jibrila, NTA News.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, has congratulated Sheikh Niang on his appointment as Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Senegal. The new Foreign Affairs Minister, until his appointment, was the permanent representative of Senegal to the United Nations in New York and also served as an ambassador to Japan and South Africa. Nigeria's Foreign Minister described his elevation as a well-deserved recognition of his distinguished diplomatic career. Yusuf Tugar, in a statement, also expresses Nigeria's readiness to sustain the diplomatic relations with Senegal. Tugar points out that Nigeria and Senegal enjoys a long-standing relationship in diplomacy, trade, culture, and regional peace-building efforts. In other news, the federal government says allowing partial rice importation is not intended to undermine local production, but to mitigate the impact of high food cost resulting from the removal of the fuel subsidy. Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, in an interview says the administration is supporting local producers to produce competitive food for both local and international markets. Musa Baba Adiyu reports.
5 years ago, Nigeria set agenda to produce enough rice to meet the country's demand and export the surplus. The initiative was designed to be achieved under the National Rice Development Strategy. 5 years into the journey, key stakeholders including farmers, processors and marketers converged here to review progress made so far. Officials from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, along with development partners, presented their success stories and challenges.
Over the first few years, Nigeria has recorded remarkable progress in rice production. Yields have improved through better agronomic practices and adoption of improved seed varieties.
The Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, stated that Nigeria is on the right track. He noted that the current administration has not deviated from the Rice Revolution program.
All policies that have been undertaken by President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu successfully to change the structure of our economy so that all those in domestic production, what they are producing is competitive and can be sold elsewhere in the world.
An NTA investigation shows that the prices of unmilled and processed rice have dropped by about 50% across the country. However, farmers are raising concerns that this development is not commensurate with the cost of production. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Nigeria's decision to place a temporary ban on shea nut exports is drawing mixed reactions as the price of the commodity remains unstable in the international commodity market. However, the federal government insists that the move will unlock greater economic value by boosting local processing and positioning the country as a major player in the global shea butter industry. Justin Bem-Unyi reports.
Nigeria, which produces above 40% of the world's shea nuts, has long been a giant in raw supply, but a minor player in finished products. The country currently accounts for just 1% of the $6.5 billion global shea butter market, as most of its nuts are exported unprocessed. In a bold step to change that, authorities recently announced a 6-month ban on the export of raw shea nuts. Officials say the policy is designed to encourage local processing, create jobs and help Nigeria move up the value chain by producing shea butter and related products for the international market. For farmers like Adija Rahman in Shaki, southwestern Nigeria, the transition has been tough. Prices for raw nuts have dropped, and many fear unsold stockpiles will hurt their income in the short run. It feels like we are being left behind, she said, pointing out that a 25-kilogram bag now sells for less than half its previous price.
It feels like they want us to be crushed because this is the money I use in meeting my children's need. There is nothing we can do now. We can't take care of anything since the shift in policy.
Before, we used to sell the shea nuts to the company for 1.2 million per ton. However, right after the ban, the company stopped buying because they majorly ship out the shea nuts after buying them from us. However, the other company buying them at the moment only pays 800,000 per ton as a result. We cannot sell our goods at that rate.
Lost like 400,000 naira.
Still, the federal government maintains the decision is not a setback, but a strategic move. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, recently described the suspension as a bold step to ensure Nigeria does not remain just a supplier of raw materials, but becomes a global leader in high-value shea products. Experts agree that while the immediate impact is painful, the long-term benefits could be transformative. An agronomist, Babatunde Olarewaju, notes that the shift could spark industrial growth, though he cautions that local demand must expand quickly to absorb the glut.
Yeah, definitely there's going to be excess, over demand. And what happens when you have those excesses is that, it would further lead to crash in local prices, because when supply is far outweighing demand, prices will crash. That might serve as disincentive to the pickers, to the farmers.
Ultimately, the shea nut policy is seen as part of a broader effort to strengthen Nigeria's agro-processing sector. While the journey may be challenging for farmers in the short term, many believe it marks a necessary step towards ensuring the nation captures more value from its rich natural resources. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
And time for a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned. A critical aspect of waste management lies in transforming what is often discarded into valuable resources. While much attention has been placed on recycling plastics, experts believe there are even more opportunities in the hidden values of biodegradable waste. Did you know that? Charles Alpha will tell us more.
Victoria Gessa, a farmer residing in Angwa Doka to Karu, Nasarawa State, disposes of her household waste by dumping it into a small river behind her house. Ajuma Oguche, on the other hand, burns hers.
You know, Nigerian, we believe in shortcuts. So the disposal centers are a bit far from my house. So I just decided to go into that one, and it makes it faster. And I discovered that, in fact, that was ignorance of the highest order.
It's how to use coconut bark, how to use many things, to use it on your own, and it will not be a waste. Before now, I use all those ones, I throw it or I burn it without making use of it.
They are just two among many women in this community unaware of the hidden value in food waste, agricultural residues, animal droppings, and garden refuse, all of which are biodegradable. While global attention often centers on plastic and other waste streams, bio-waste remains overlooked.
In Karu, we have two. One is in Ado, which is about 14.5 hectares. Then the second one is in Tudunwada, is also about 7.6 hectares. So if you go there, you see waste being dumped without being recycled. And if you just take the waste stream entirely, we have about 75% that is organic in nature.
It is in this light that women of the community are being sensitized on how bio-waste can drive climate-smart agriculture and sustainable livelihoods by the Global Initiative for Food Security and Ecosystem Preservation, with support from the Global Environment Facility, Small Grants Program, and the UNDP.
What we have done here today is to open the eyes of the Karu local government of the potential of bio-waste and all the benefits that they can attract that they are not taking advantage of.
With this knowledge, women who once disposed waste can now transform to compost, biogas, biochar, and organic fertilizers. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
Research institutes in West Africa and their international partners are worried that the poor funding mechanisms from ECOWAS member countries, if not improved, will hinder progress already recorded in the fight against Lassa fever and other infectious diseases in the sub-region. This was emphasized at the ongoing ECOWAS conference on Lassa fever holding in Abuja, Côte d'Ivoire. Kelvin Ehonwahi reports.
The Dakar hub in Senegal, funded by the WHO, is a model of what can be replicated across member states of ECOWAS in an effort to build a well-coordinated research and disease surveillance structure for the sub-region to prepare it for emergency situations and routine disease management culture. At this engagement forum of experts from West African and international partners, it was stressed that new approaches are needed in funding and partnerships.
There's been growing momentum to try to address it, strengthening regional capacity, local capacity to take care of people with Lassa, to find ways of preventing the disease. And now there's tremendous activity to test novel vaccines like the ones that we're working to develop.
My area is principally on medical countermeasures. That is, like, for example, building capacities to ensure that clinical trialists, that is, people who are involved in clinical trials, are equipped with the necessary knowledge, skills, and experience to be able to conduct clinical trials that can actually be beneficial to us, but whatever is generated out of it is something that we can use globally.
Some of the outbreak response are something that we take into the community. We don't actually listen to the community, their peculiarities and what they think, following good understanding of what is going on with them, how best we can approach within their own context of traditions and practices. So this conference actually gives us that opportunity to hear from different communities, and then when we go back home, it's something that we can actually plan and to try to see that we implement.
The Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, and other organizations had side events focusing majorly on evaluating Lassa fever and related diseases' impact on well-being of citizens in the sub-region and making recommendations that ECOWAS can adopt to stem the tide. In Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, Kelvin Ewonwaye, NTA News.
Nepal's army took back control of Kathmandu here this Wednesday after the worst violence in 2 decades, which ousted the Prime Minister and left the parliament ablaze, enforcing a curfew leading to talks with protest leaders. Frama Pani reports.
Soldiers patrolled the streets of the capital, seeking to end the deadly protest this week, during which police say more than 13,500 prisoners escaped jail across the country. Armored personnel carriers rumbled past the carcasses of the burnt vehicles and buildings on the largely quiet streets, with officers issuing orders via loudspeakers calling for calm during the political vacuum. Nepali Army Chief General Ashok Raj Sigal held consultations with related stakeholders and held a meeting with representatives of Gen Z. Rajaram Basnet, referring to the loose umbrella title of the young protesters, but without giving further details. Shushila Karki, a former Supreme Court justice who many see as a potential interim leader, said the dialogue between parties was critical. Demonstrations began Monday in the capital against the government's ban on social media and over corruption, driven by angry young protesters who dubbed themselves the Gen Z movement. However, they escalated into an outpouring of rage nationwide, with government buildings set on fire after at least 19 people were killed in a deadly crackdown. The rapid descent into chaos shocked many, and Nepal's military warned against activities that could lead the country into unrest and instability. Kathmandu's airport resumed operations on Wednesday, the Civil Aviation Authority said. The International Crisis Group called a major inflection point in the country's uneasy experience with democratic rule. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for restraint to avoid further escalation of violence. More than a fifth of people aged 15 to 24 are unemployed in Nepal, according to the World Bank, with GDP per capita just $1,447. Frama Pangi, NTA News.
Until the common man stops complaining, leaders in the country must continue to work to address their concerns. Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, stated this during the third quarterly meeting of RHI state coordinators, where she unveiled a national competition, Renewed Hope Initiative Green Nigeria Challenge, to promote clean and green environment across the country. Let's hear from State House correspondent Adeni Taiwo.
State coordinators and other foot soldiers of Renewed Hope Initiative are here again for their high-level quarterly meeting, the third for the year. This time, their brief revolves mainly around the launch of Green Nigeria Challenge, a national competition designed to promote green and clean environment, which the national coordinator of RHI and Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu unveiled at the meeting. Divided into 3 categories, the competition will see households in 11 frontline northern states participating in tree planting with a 20 million naira cash prize to be won.
I discovered that some households do have trees, but they are not many, and they need that coverage to curb desertification.
Other 2 categories at communities and state levels will address key environmental concerns, including plastic waste disposal.
Community category, open to all youth groups, NGOs, CBOs, whoever, to plant trees and clean up degraded areas. The prize money for this group of youth is 50 million. And then the state category, tree planting, and also turning a state into a green state. We visited Enugu. They are exempted from the competition. They are designated as a model green state with a cash prize of 100 million.
She announced upcoming events, including the launch of Flow with Confidence campaign, slated for October 2nd and 3rd in Gombe State.
I have 200,000 naira each to 250 persons living with disability across the 36 states and FCT. And this will come to a total of 9,250 persons to benefit. 10 digital economy centers fully furnished with ICT equipment to be virtually commissioned in the following states: Abia, Delta, Edo, Lagos, Nasarawa, Ondo, Kano, Katsina, Yobe, and Zamfara. The Environment Club for senior secondary school students, because it involves them going around the state to clean up. And the Environment Society for students in university and tertiary institutions.
The thing to keeping the state clean is not just by giving instructions, it's also by being very proactive in what he's been doing. It's more like seeing things, picking it up, like moving around, going on inspections. So that has actually helped greatly in making Enugu State clean.
We're very grateful to Her Excellency, the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for all these tireless efforts and bringing all these innovations to bear in all the states. And we're trying our best to make sure that it gets to the grassroots.
The First Lady called on RHI state coordinators to redouble their efforts in ensuring that more Nigerians benefit from ongoing interventions in their states. From the villa to their various states, another seed of empowerment sown, and from planting a green garden to co-creating green communities, the desire of Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, to promote climate-friendly environment is again taking off on the back of a national competition, the Green Nigeria Challenge. Like others before it, the competition offers Nigerians at states and community levels the incentives to plant trees, fight deforestation, and ultimately build greener tomorrow. In the State House, Adeni Itaiwo, NTA News.
Thank you, Adeni. And that concludes the news. Thank you for your time. I'm Ruth Aguele. My sign language interpreter is Taiwo Ozoma.